I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And we've got the World Series main event coverage starting on ESPN. We're going to have the final table in November. And the chip leader is Dennis Phillips, heretofore unknown.
He had $4,500 in lifetime cashes coming in. So Jerry Yang looked like Johnny Moss compared to this guy.
But you know what? By all accounts, he really played well. It's not one of those fluky things where he's drawing on people and accumulated chips. He got a big stack. He kept working the stack, building it, very steady. He's got a very steady demeanor. And for all we know, we might be one of the first to interview the next world champion. And either way, he's going in as a chip leader. He's going to be a big influence on whatever happens. So very interesting to get to know him because we really don't know anything about him.
I want to find out something about this guy. I'm going to grill him.
You're like a detective.
Yeah, I'm going to grill him.
So when they announced that the final table would be delayed and would be in November, there was some controversy about it. And people eventually realized that as far as poker goes, it's a good thing. For you, being the chip leader, going in, being an amateur player, is this a good thing or a bad thing or no factor?
Oh, no, it's a factor. At the time, obviously, I thought it was a bad thing. I had a good read on the table. I'm sure they had a good read on me, too. But I had a good read on the table. I was on a nice roll. I had the things. We were ready to go. No, they had about priming out of the table. Away from that chair. It's just unreal. But it's a good thing for poker, and in actuality, it's probably a good thing for me. Mm-hmm. The 117 days gives me plenty of time to get sponsors, plenty of time to get the name recognition, a lot of other benefits from it.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, as far as promoting yourself and as far as leveraging this into other benefits, there's no question. But as far as winning the event, would it have been better just to keep rolling? You're the chip leader, or on the other hand, is this an opportunity to really do some research and more preparation, especially without a lot of experience, and maybe come in a lot stronger, relatively speaking?
I was fairly comfortable when I got in there. I was ready to keep going with it. Because of the break, I'm assuming the other 8 people are going to receive coaching, going to get more training, going to improve their game. Therefore, I have to step up and do it too.
Now, you were rolling and in certain ways steamrolling the table, from what I read, but now you've taken on a coach, actually a friend of mine from 20 years ago, Roy Winston. Yeah. Did you ever think that it wasn't broken, so don't fix it?
Oh, absolutely.
What were your thoughts going into that decision?
Well, Roy wasn't the first one to approach me. I was approached by a number of people that I turned down. He was a persistent one. He and Joe.
Roy is
and
persistent.
Like that, which actually, that's not a bad thing.
It's a good quality. Yeah.
It's a good quality. I like that in a person. They flew into St. Louis. They met with me and the group that I have advising me. They were extremely impressive on it. And the other thing about it, I'm not going to be such an egotistical person to think I can improve.
Of course.
If you look at it, and not that I'm comparing myself with them, but, Jack Nicklaus had a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, who hasn't had a coach? Can they improve my game? Absolutely. Can anybody's game be improved? Absolutely.
Well, and poker players have coaches even when it's not officially a coach.
Well,
even the best players spend time getting advice and comparing hands and discussing hands. I mean, Phil Ivey's talking about hands with Barry Greenstein and so forth. So it's just a different variety. How does the coaching actually manifest itself? I mean, what is coaching in this context?
Well, again, we're just barely into this. We've only been into it for the last few days. I know what we have on plan, a lot of playing heads up against each other to analyze the game, a lot of videotaping and watching that, a lot of analysis of the other 8 people. There's a lot of advice going into it, because he's also helping me not just with the preparation and the playing there, but he's also advising me on some other things, as far as media, as far as what publicity, as far as what tournaments to play in. Mm-hmm. It's a whole scope. He's given me the whole package.
Do you, last year we saw Jerry Yang came in and he had a plan and he executed the plan. Mm-hmm. Are you going to have a specific game plan, do you think, for your tactics, or are you going to have to wait and react and see what's going on with the other players? Because they're all going to have plans. It's like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Actually, it's not bad. Coming from Mike Tyson, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But when I was at the table, and then I had a plan. I had an analysis of each of the other players and the position I was on, and I was ready to play against any of them. I didn't have any problem with that. We have 2 major problems here. Number one, I have no idea of the position. They're redrawing all of those. And it's going to make a major difference whether they're on my left or my right and how I play them. So I can't make definite plans till I know where everybody's seated.
Are they going to redraw right before?
Right before it, so we have no idea.
That's a good
where
idea.
anybody's going to sit.
That's a great idea because that really minimizes the value of preparation.
Very good. I mean, for a true poker person, that position means a lot. And by actually delaying that until we're ready to sit down and shuffle up and deal, yeah, that's a big difference on
Makes
that.
you think on your feet.
Oh, very much so on it. Second thing is these people have had, again, 117 days to analyze, to change, to, whatever. If I go in there assuming that they're going to play the same way they played back there in July, oh, now that's a dangerous assumption to make.
Very.
Just if they assume that I'm going to be playing the same way.
It's not just the preparation, but just the mood is different. At the time, some guys are tired, some guys are stressed, some others aren't. Some of them are on a roll, feeling really good. I mean, the whole mental state has changed so much, and that's the biggest part of poker in a lot of ways, reading who's on tilt, who's not. You
bring up a very good point. Mental attitude is a lot. At that time, I had a tremendous amount of confidence. I think some of the others were very scared at that time, which, I don't blame them. In their position, I might have been the same way. Again, here we come, 117 days later. They've had time to regroup. They've had time to get coaching. They've had time to take a deep breath. I mean...
How come you weren't scared there? Because you're the least experienced of the players.
You had 4,500 in cashes total before this. That's the correct figure.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the huge money differences and how come you weren't as scared as some of the others?
I don't think my heartbeat got over 80 at any time. I had nothing to lose. I was not supposed to be there. And I'm the chip leader. I mean, if I'd have got knocked out, everybody would have said, well, you did a great run. There's no pressure on me whatsoever. So I was having fun. If I can't have fun at poker, I don't want to play poker. And believe me, I had fun.
See, as far as preparation goes, I think in a lot of ways you've actually got a big advantage, which is that the best preparation is doing research on the other players. Now, some of the other players, they're actually, even though none of them is highly famous or has been on TV a lot, there's more information about them. They've played a lot more online. They've played more in tournaments. You can really research what their tendencies are. And with you, there's a lot more of a blank slate, so they can do all the research they want. All they've got to go on is this event, really.
I think they just thought I'd ignore me. Right, no research at all, and just let it come in there.
Well, it's kind of frustrating. If they really want to get a line on your play, all they've got to go on is those couple of days, whereas you can really look into what people have done over the couple of years. Are these guys really aggressive players? How do they play certain hands? Do they have certain tendencies? And that kind of research can really benefit you.
Yeah.
Now, ESPN has just started showing the main event, and I haven't seen any coverage of you yet. How did your first couple of days go? Because we know about the last couple of days, but how did the first few days go for you?
I was totally under the radar for the first about 4 days. I really didn't come in there until with Voss, when I took him out the very last play. I think it was day 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Voss.
Yeah, Mark
was that there. A key hand?
Oh, absolutely. I had about 1.8. I mean, I was rising in the rankings and that, but he had 1.5. I doubled up, basically. It's the first time I broke the top 10.
How did that hand come down?
Last hand of the day, and I mean, it was one of those hands you dream about. Mark had sat down there with about 2.8 million.
And he's a very aggressive player who likes to
He's a very, very
himself.
good player.
Yeah.
He's an aggressive player. And he was playing, and he was taken down on a couple of different hands, and had dwindled the stack down to about 1.5. He was not on tilt, but he's what I call a soft tilt on it. That he
it's
really,
a polite way of saying he was on tilt.
He's too good a player to be really on tilt. But he was not happy. Let's put it that way, okay?
Right.
And in his position, I wouldn't have been either. So that's fine. But I had the perfect position. I had the perfect hand, the whole bit like that on it. I make a raise. He comes over the top. I make a ridiculous overbet pre-flop on it. I had folded a couple of others when people had come up against me on it. So he pushes in, and I insta-call on it. He has ace-king, I have pocket aces.
Yeah, perfect.
It was perfect. It was
a good matchup.
It couldn't have been written better. I mean...
But I just want to jump back to like the first couple of days. Did you play big pots early on, or were we just steadily accumulating?
My goal was simply, the first few days, is to stay above chip average. If at the end of day 1, chip average is 40,000, I wanted to have at least 45. I laid down a lot of hands that I probably would have won. But why take the chance? I also found, and I was kind of surprised that there were a number of players that weren't as savvy as I thought they would be coming to the World Series of Poker. And they will call. They won't know you when you're making a move against them. They won't have the brains to realize you've got a set of kings or something like that on it, and they will call you. Now, granted, that's a good way to build up your stack, but a lot of the guys that were leading in days 2 and 3 didn't make it to the final table.
That's why pro players think that the main event's the greatest value, because you have guys coming in from nowhere. Now, you won a satellite, and apparently you've got some skills and abilities, but a lot of your amateur colleagues are not in the same boat. And some pros are also don't know how to play the internet.
Related to that, Did you have any specific goal coming into the main event? I mean, you'd won this this satellite, so you were practically on a free roll. First time you play. Did you come in thinking, I'm going to just play my best, see what happens, or were you thinking specifically, I'd like to cash, or I'd like to make it this far, or...
I keep a record of all my tournaments and everything like that. Over the last 12 months in St. Louis, in the tournaments I played, they're the local ones, I cashed in 54% of the tournaments I entered. All right, so I was used to making at least the money, and I made a fair number of final tables, and I won a lot of the tournaments too. When I came in here, especially after the first 2 or 3 hours of playing, I assumed I would make the money. I really did. Now, how deep I would go after that, I didn't know.
But step one, you planned on making the money,
yes,
and
exactly.
Sounds like part of your strategy in terms of staying above the average was geared towards that, as opposed to I'm going to gamble big and try and and win it early.
I just don't think that's a good strategy.
At what point did you start thinking in terms of the final table? And I say the final table because with the break, that was kind of the
that's what everyone
set
was.
at a certain point. You have to think in terms of the final table and then think about winning in November. At what point did you start to think, wow, I'm really looking good, and I'm going to try and focus on the final table?
Well, when we're getting down there, there are certain key times when you actually have, I guess for lack of a better, free money sitting out there for you. When you get close to the bubble, people are afraid and don't want to go out. If you're a little aggressive there, you can pick up a lot of change, which I did. When you get down, if you just keep an eye on the monitor when you're getting down to ready to bump to another level, a lot of people will back off because it starts getting a substantial amount of money, when they go from, 350th to 348th or whatever the heck the breaks were. I don't remember on that. And you can play those. And I don't think there were too many people that were playing that. They were getting better players and they were playing their position and playing their stacks better. But they weren't playing the money on it. And, there's a good way to do that.
I like the hand against Mark Voss in the sense that the last hand of the night, usually people are kind of stalling and they're tired and they just figure, I'll get to the next day. But then it also can be the other extreme, which is it's the last hand, let's see what happens. But it's kind of rare because one thing that's frustrating is the fact that the pace of play in the main event towards the end of the night really slows, and it can be infuriating. But I like the fact that you guys were, of course you're going to mix it up with aces, but I like the fact that Mark took his ace-king and really went for it.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a bad play on his part. Twice before that, I had mediocre hands, tried to push the pot, got called on it, or a re-raise, and I folded them.
Well, and there is a psychology that people really don't want to lose a lot of chips in the last hand. They figure, I've played 12 hours today, I'm ready I'll come in fresh tomorrow, I'm not going to make a marginal play on the last hand and then lose 3/4 of my stack. So unless you've got a big hand, he has got a good chance of prevailing, but it wasn't the case.
So you make the final 9, and you're a working man. You work at a company called Broadway Trucks in St. Louis.
Correct.
And now you're famous. Has that been comfortable for you? You seem very at ease with yourself, but that's got to be an unusual circumstance.
It is, and my circumstances with the job are a bit unusual. To give you an idea, the general manager of it, when he found out I was coming out here, canceled his 4th of July plans and flew out here with me instead.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, it was unreal. He just canceled, hey, we're going with you, and he came out here for the first 3 or 4 days on it. When I went back, he called me in the office and said, look, for the next 3 or 4 months, things are going to be hectic. You're going to be here every now and then. You're going to be gone a lot. We know that. I've got people to cover it. We've got your back. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Go have fun.
That's great.
Oh, it's unreal. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Right.
So would you plan on working at a job again?
I was working yesterday.
I mean, one thing, I was thinking about that because I saw earlier where you said that win or lose, you intended to keep working, and certainly it sounds like a good environment and one that you'd be comfortable in, but 9th place or 8th place or 7th place, in that $1 million range, you've got to pay your taxes.
You're absolutely
You've got other expenses.
Right, that's not retirement money, right?
We all know it's not retirement
right.
money. $9.1 million, plus the fact that in this day and age, that might just be the foundation for another $10 million or more in terms of endorsements and other ancillary income. It's tough to imagine dispatching the trucks and so forth once you've got $10 or $20 million coming in.
I might take a few more days vacation.
Now, I was reading in your blog, you're going to London for some of the tournaments there, but you hadn't had a passport before this.
No, I had to get a passport just to travel anywhere, so I never had any need to before.
One thought I had is, in terms of the main event, in terms of the final table now, it may be to your advantage not to play in any public tournaments, maybe play on the internet, anonymously where people don't know who you are. But in a sense, as I said, one of the big advantages is the fact that people aren't very familiar with your game. They may not give you credit for making certain moves or certain plays. So unless you're coming in now and doing something radically different, which could be dangerous in its own sense, the fact, playing in some tournaments with well-known players who are going to be really watching you and observing you could be to your disadvantage. Have you
We did think about that. We considered it quite a bit. The game plan right now, just to put the cards on the table, Joe and Roy will be analyzing and working with me for the next few days.
Joe McGowan is Roy's partner in Oracle Consulting.
There you go, absolutely. Then I'm going to play in the Regatta. They're going over there also. They're going to watch it, analyze, see what happens. Then we come back and we do the same thing for another week. Then we go to London. Guess what? They're going to London. They're going to watch it, analyze it the whole bit. Then we come back again. I figured the worst case scenario for this thing, my game right now is better than it was a month ago. My game at the end of the World Series was better than it was at the beginning. I think there are ways to improve it again. These guys can maybe take me up another notch.
Yeah.
Whatever I do at the final table, I think my game will improve for the future, and I think it's well worth it.
So just building on something Adam asked before, ESPN hasn't really started to cover you. It probably took them a while to catch on to the fact that you were somebody they needed to
I was totally under the radar.
because early on they pick a few dozen people and try and catch some hands. So they're going to.
They ran by my table a lot.
Right, exactly. Phil Helmuth's all in, and 8 cameras go by. But once they start showing, you'll have people stopping you on the street and coming up to you, and
it's already happening.
People asking you to borrow money.
Yeah,
it's already starting. Is there any way to prepare for that? Is that something
I don't know how you would
fear,
do it.
or
right now I'm just riding with it, and it really hasn't been a problem. I was on the plane. I was recognized there. One of the planes I was coming back, flying into St. Louis. I'm just sitting back there, no problem. The stewardess is announcing where the bags are going to be picked up, what carousel. And by the way, Dennis Phillips is in seat 66.
Oh my goodness!
Sitting there going, oh my gosh, So yeah, it's wild.
That's unexpected. I was going to ask you, what are some of the unexpected things? Because I wouldn't even imagine something like that happening.
I didn't think. It hasn't aired yet. I'm not for sure why people know me, but I can't hardly walk down the street now without somebody shaking my hand or whatever.
Do you wear your Cardinals cap on the street?
No, I do not. I purposely don't.
Yeah.
You mentioning that you're wearing the Cardinals hat. You're a big Cardinals fan.
Very much so.
You just had a bunch of thrills.
Oh, wow, did I ever.
Right? I mean, it's already paying off to make the final table.
Yes, very much so. The Cardinals had a crucial series with the Milwaukee Brewers. Prior to one of the games, they invited my entire family. Gave us great seats for it. We got down to the field to do batting practice on it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got to throw the first pitch out on it. Albert Pujols has a foundation in St. Louis. And it's a foundation for Down syndrome children and also to help some of the disadvantaged in the Caribbean islands there. He owns a couple of orphanages. He does a tremendous amount of things. He will build a ball diamond there, whatever it takes. And he doesn't toot his own horn. And this guy is a great guy, all right? I was making a donation to that. I gave $10,000 to the foundation, no strings attached, just gave it to him. Wasn't expecting anything at all. The director of the foundation is out there, and we've got the check, and I'm handing it to him, and I look over his shoulder, and guess who's walking out of the dugout toward me? Albert Pujols. All right, I made a $7 million raise and didn't blink an eye. When he's walking toward me, my knees got a little weak. He had a bat in his hand. He gave me one of his game bats, signed to me, came up, shook my hand, said, really appreciated it and everything. Keep up the good work. And
wonderful.
It was unbelievable.
Well, that's one of the great things about this, which is that no matter what happens, like you say, it's already been a huge success. It could be even bigger, but even these sort of things are things you don't anticipate that just enrich your life and make this a obviously once in a lifetime experience.
If I finish 9th, I've said this before, I'll dance a jig all the way to the door. I mean, how could I not?
Well, you've taken the right attitude. I noticed you're wearing the Bad Beat on Cancer logo.
So.
You wanted to mention that?
Yeah, very much so. I can't remember what day it was. It was right when we were getting down to the money. They passed out to all the players, asking them to sign up for the 1% on this. 100% of this money goes to the Cancer Foundation. I think it's a no-brainer. I don't see why you would not. You're talking 1% of found money.
And really well-known players, Ray First and Phil Gordon, are on the board of that.
Absolutely.
It's a very legitimate.
We've done this, and they have one of the highest rates in terms of
the money that's
raised actually going to research and to education.
So. I do my due diligence. I give a lot to charities and that, but I don't give to just anyone. I do the research and find out.
You have to be careful.
You have to be very careful with that. But the 1% here I thought was a no-brainer. Automatically signed up for it. For that matter, PokerStars here has matched it So if I get lucky enough to win this whole thing, we're talking 182,000 donation to them.
Right, fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
Well, best of luck to you. The great thing is you're enjoying it.
Absolutely.
And just based on your attitude, I think you're going to do very well. You're going to do extremely well just because you've got the right frame of mind and the right attitude,
that.
the right. I mean, it's so important to come in just with the right tenor, which you have. So, best of luck to you. Thanks for coming by and joining us.
Anytime, guys.
Good luck, Dennis.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com. See you next week.
Two bracelets. Awesome.
Well, you know, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call.
We play at FullTiltPoker.com.